All right, YouTube, what's going on? You can see right here in front of me, I'm working with a Bird 3 scooter, Sky Edition. Now, this is what I'm working with. I have two brushless controllers. Each one is rated 36/48 volt at 31 amps. Same thing with the second controller. Also have a key switch with the voltage display. I'm gonna be adding this. That way I can lock my scooter and see my voltage as I ride. And then lastly, right here is an on and off switch, which is gonna be for this front motor. So just in case if I wanna stay with back wheel drive and cut the front one off, I can do that with this switch right here. My front motor is already assembled. Go ahead and jump to the video. Just want to take the time, fellas, to tell you to please smash that like button on this video. That way it helped me get my content pushed out. Appreciate it. I'm gonna pay attention to this sleeve going this way towards the throttle. In here is two sleeves together. You wanna be able to identify the sleeve you need. So what I'm gonna do is tear away this tape. That way I can get to the wires that I need. We're gonna do this later on. Let's go ahead and work on moving this little section right here. Now right here, since I have my brake lever loose, what we're gonna do is remove this from this brake lever. What I like to do is grab the cable from behind and just bring it out. Just like that. Now you can slide this off. What I use to tighten up this little display, voltage display with key, is just a connector that I clipped off my controller previously. So I just set that in there, slide that in, and then screw on my screw, and it fills in the gap. Using the Torx T15, we're gonna remove our throttle. This is what you need. This is what you don't need. So this could be an easier way of finding out which wires you need for your throttle by just tracing it directly back to the throttle itself. So we're gonna put this back in place and we're gonna clip these wires because they're just gonna be in the way. We're gonna work with our throttle wires and we're gonna wire them in to this connector right here. This blue wire right here, you don't need it, just clip it. That way you won't get confused. With my throttle wires, I eliminated the blue wire so it's no longer there. I have yellow, black, and red. And using this connector, I'm gonna solder these wires on, red with red, black with black, yellow with yellow. Go ahead and work on our headlight. So since I'm gonna be running my headlight and my tail light together off of 12 volts, I'm gonna be using two 30 ohm resistors. And I'm just gonna wind these together just like so. Instead of putting it the way it was, color with color, I'm gonna connect this green with the white and then this green with this white. All right, there goes my headlight connection. So I have all this up top wired in. Now let's go ahead and get our scooter flipped upside down and go from there. Here I'm using a 5/16 and an 8mm Allen key wrench to remove this wheel. For this, I'm using a T45 to remove this caliper. Now we can go ahead and remove this and remove our wheel. Let's go ahead and open this up. For this, we're using a 16mm socket to break this bolt free. Let's go ahead and release this spring. Now pull up on this and it should break free. T25. Right here in the back, there's two T25s. We're gonna remove both of these. Now you wanna remove the remaining of the wires. We're gonna go ahead and remove this back wheel because it appears to be flat, but I won't know until later on. I'm gonna go ahead and remove these, that way my scooter can just sit flat. Now with our brake, let's just go ahead and pull that straight out. Just like that, because we're not gonna need it. It's just taking up space. What I'm gonna do is strip some of this black coating because it's just too thick, it's taking up a lot of space. Let's go ahead and remove some of this. I'm using a coat hanger to feed this through so we can get our wires through this end right here. Now that the wires are fed through, let's go ahead and stand our scooter back up. Now what we're gonna do is remove this wheel. That way we can have access to this bolt and get that put in place. Make sure you align this slit with this tab so it falls in place. Here goes our front motor. We want to be sure that our motor is aligned with the back motor so they're facing the same way, they're on the same side. This is not turned this way. It's got to be on the same side. Or you can just know by the air hose. Make sure they're on the same side. Right here, we're gonna use the remaining connectors and put them into these connectors right here. Now we're gonna make our extensions long enough to where they reach the back of this wheel. So here goes the wires. All of them measured out pretty long, except for the voltmeter and key switch, which is right here in the middle, right there. Now this only comes about this far, so let's go ahead and solder on some extensions. That way they can meet up with these. Okay, so here it goes. Just added me some extensions. Now, as you can see, all of my wires are pretty much the same length. Right here, I'm going to drill two holes, two 12mm holes, that way I can get these push buttons to fall in place. So right here at this part, the sleeve of wires that went in through here is right here. Now there's three wires. There's a green, a red, and a black. You want to cut into that black wire and wire that to a kill switch, because this green does not power off. Do this and everything's good. So right here, like I mentioned before, inside the sleeve of wires that go to the display, there's three wires, green, red, and black. You want to cut into the black wire and wire that into this switch. So that's what that should look like. I just tapped into the ground wire to this display and ran that to a switch. This is what it looks like. So right here, I'm working on my headlight. I'm gonna cut back into the green wire, and I'm gonna run this to this top switch, and that's gonna turn my headlight on and off. Go ahead and connect our connectors. One here is for my throttle, and this one right here is for my headlight. Any bare contact points, just cover it up with some tape. That'll work. This is what things look like right before I close it. That way you guys can see what's going on here. This top switch controls my light on and off. The one on the bottom controls this LED screen, power on and off. So far, got the top half knocked out the way. Right here are my buttons, like I mentioned. This is for my scooter, turn it on and off. And I have my on and off switch for my front motor to power on and off. Now, my next step is to drill some holes down to here. That way we can get some wires fed through here, down inside the housing. Okay, so right here at the back of my scooter, well, I'm gonna drill some holes back here. That way I can get my wires fed through. So let's go ahead and do that. Just came back from outside, got my hose drilled using a 1/2" drill bit. That was the biggest I had, and that's gonna have to work. From underneath, that's what that looks like. So this is gonna be for my motor wires to go through, my hall sensor wires, and a few other wires. So all this is out the way. This is the wire that I'm going to be using for my motor, since I'm gonna be transferring a lot of current and a lot of heat is gonna be moving on through these wires. Now, the color code's not gonna be exact since I'm using these wires and it's all I have. I did order the correct wires from Amazon. However, they're 3 days late and they're holding me up. So as soon as that does arrive, I'm sending that right back. We're gonna use this and we're gonna connect this to our existing motor wires. Let's go ahead and remove this ledge right here. I went ahead and got rid of this ledge, this little lip. It looked like this right here on top. the thick wires I have would just slide along this little groove and that'd be it. This is the space that I have to work with for my motor wires and my hall wires going to the front motor. Here you can see I added my extensions already. I have green going with the existing green, red because it's the opposite of blue, and then white with yellow. Now I'm gonna add my heat shrink and we're gonna move over to these hall wires right here. So I've already wired in my motor wires, which are these 3 wires, and my hall sensor wires, which are these 5 smaller wires. Now with these hall sensor wires, you're gonna wire color with color. And normally you do the same thing with these thicker motor wires, except I found these wires and I harvest them. They're about 10 gauge and they work. Same thing applies. If you have a colored wire that goes with it, you can just match color with color. So let me go ahead and do these measurements and get my cuts. Let's go ahead and measure what we need. Let's get our motor wires for the front motor and our hall wires and put them inside this hole right here. Let's go ahead and remove some of this so we can have our motor wires and our hall wires. This is what my wires look like. Now I'm gonna go ahead and install this cover. All my wires look good. Right here, I made a parallel switch for my batteries. I had to make this custom because the ones on Amazon, they're just not long enough in length. So I made this to fit my project. Now, if you're wondering, the small connectors that are gonna be up top, that are closest to each other, these wires are measured at 4 inches. And these, which are going down into the actual housing, are measured at 14 inches. All right. Now, these are gonna be up top. I'm gonna feed these in, and when I get ready, I'm gonna connect my XT60 connector to this. All right, I have my parallel battery switch ready to go. So I need both of these up top. This will be going into my battery, this will go into my controller, and then from down bottom, this will be going into my controller down in the base. Now let's go ahead and jump over to our backlight. Let's drill a hole down here, put our switch, and add our wires. Let's go ahead and put our switch in. Now we're gonna cut into this black wire here for our light to turn on and off. Working on my first controller, I have some wires taped off. This is what I'm working with. The rest of it is not going to be used. In other words, these are the wires that are going to be going down inside the 1/2-inch holes that I drilled earlier. These are extensions. That way these wires can reach down into the actual housing. So let's go ahead and get these on. Let's get these in place. Now we're gonna work on our throttle. Now we're only gonna take the green wire and clip that and add an extension onto this. I have all my wires done. All my extensions are already together for my motor, my hall sensor, my power lock switch, and then my signal to my throttle. Also an XT60 connector for my main power supply. Now let's go ahead and get the scooter on the ground and get these wires fed in. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get these wires fed in through these 1/2-inch holes. But before we do, we're gonna wrap them up with some cloth tape, not the bigger wires, but the thinner wires. Go ahead and install our back wheel. All right, so right here I locate my display wires. So we're gonna go ahead and cut this off. We're gonna make our extensions for our key switch and our voltage display a little bit longer. So it's gonna be this cable from up top. This is what it looks like. Now we're gonna run this in through here, all the way down through the top. Because if we was to run this only to this battery down here, then we would get an inaccurate reading. We would only get a reading from this battery pack. So we got to connect this positive and this negative to this part going into the controller, positive and negative. I just added cloth tape onto my voltage display wires. Now the positive and negative, I'm gonna add these down through this back tire area, out through the bottom to where this controller meets. And the green wire breaks off right here because I don't need this to go beyond this point. So with this wire, we're gonna connect this to both red switches on the controllers. All right, there it goes. I have my wires fed down with the rest of these wires. Now I have to hardwire these into this positive and negative on this connector right here. Here I have my tail light and my headlights wired in together, sharing the same power supply, which is going to be an output of 12 volts. This inputs into my battery pack. So let me go ahead and demonstrate. Let's go ahead and plug this up. There you see my tail light is working. All right, remove these 3 rods inside, just using a very small flathead, and it saves you a whole inch space. Let's go ahead and cover up these nickel strips using some cloth tape. From up top, we're gonna work on these wires, go into this little mechanism with the key and the voltage display. We're gonna work on the green wire, which is right here. I separated from the other two, the red and the black. Those are gonna be wired down here. From up top, we're gonna wire this to the lock wire on the controller. We're taking the key ignition wire from this controller, and this is the key ignition wire from the second controller. We're gonna join these together. So these are the last two wires going to the key switch. I already wired in the green wire, so we're gonna wire in this black and red wire. We want these to read both battery packs, the one on top and the one in the housing. So we're gonna wire this in on this side to where the controller is. All right, so it's gonna be the same thing, positive with positive and negative with negative. We're just gonna splice into the wires and piggyback these. Just wired in my positive and negative to my controller side, taped it up. So far we're done up top. Let's go ahead and flip the scooter back over and work on the bottom. At the end, we will mess with our self-study wires, our 3-speed wires, and then our cruise control wires. So let's go ahead and plug in our throttle. There it is. Now lastly, this is what I have to work with. This green wire, which goes back to this controller at the bottom. This is the signal wire to the throttle. I'm gonna join this signal wire to this throttle signal wire. Ran into a little issue here at the bottom. So I was plugging this into the battery pack, and then I was like, well, this has to plug into here. I actually got things confused, and I have to clip this and hardwire this red positive and negative into this positive and negative. So let's go ahead and do that. Right here, what I'm doing is connecting my controller power supply into this parallel switch, positive to positive, negative to negative. This is my throttle connector going to my controller, and the green wire is the signal to the controller up top. We're using that signal and we're connecting it to the signal on this throttle. They're together. Now let's go up top, power this on like this, give it throttle and see what it does. I've connected both of my battery packs, this one to my parallel switch and my top battery to the other end of the parallel switch. So right here, you see my voltage light is on. When I press this button, it turns off. That's because regardless of the way I wired it, this light stayed on. So I had to cut into the ground and break the line, that way I can cut the power to that. This key's got to be in here so I can hit my intelligent wires. Now let's go back and do the intelligent wires. Let's go ahead and connect our self-study wires. Let's go ahead and work on our 3-speed. Now for these controllers, it's gonna be blue grounded to black. So I'm gonna strip both of these wires, solder them together, and put some heat shrink on that. I knew which was my third speed because I used a jumper wire from the ground, which is the black, to blue, and then I did black to the middle wire, which is brown. So blue to black and then brown to black. One will be high speed, one will be low speed. For me, it was this blue and black, so I soldered those together. Now my third speed is activated. So now moving over to our throttle again. Our green signal wire going to the top controller. We're gonna leave this the way it is, and we're gonna cut into it right here along the middle. And this wires are for our on and off switch. That way we can cut our front motor off when we choose to. So let's get this spliced and add these wires. So for the switch up top, this is the red and blue wire. We're gonna wire one side to one of this side of the green wire and the other side to the other. Lastly, before I wrap this up, you have your orange wire and your black wire. Just like the self-study wires, these plug into each other. Now, if you want cruise control, plug this up together, and there you go, you have your cruise control. Now I'm gonna do the same thing to my top controller. Same thing with the top controller. We're gonna find our orange wire and our black, plug it into the other one, and just like that, you have cruise control. When you don't want cruise control, you just disconnect it. I have both of my wheels spinning on their own. That is because I hooked up the cruise control line right here on the controller. Now, if you don't want that, you would just have to disconnect that. But that's cruise control right there, activated. Let's try to get this controller inside this housing. Okay, so right here, as you can see, I did hot glue my wires all the way inside this little area to keep them from pinching or going down. My scooter is on the ground. This is my second battery pack. We're gonna go ahead and add that onto the top of this. So just real quick, this right here is my charging port. And that is the same cable. Only thing I did was clipped it so that it wouldn't be so long. I had the 8mm part sitting right here inside this hole. I had to drill that out just a little bit so that can fit in there properly. Now when I charge it, it charges directly just like that. We're gonna slide our controller into this slot where the XT60 connector comes out for your battery. Now let's connect our battery tab. Right here, I'm gonna have to add some extensions onto this positive and negative because it's not meeting up with this battery XT60 connector. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut these and add some connections, that way we can get this connected. I added some extensions onto this cable, that way it's able to reach the battery pack. Now let's go ahead and connect this. These straps were already done. I did this previously because this was a 72-volt scooter. Go ahead and tighten these up. Charging both of my battery packs now, as you can see. This one's for the one inside, this is for the one right here on top. Right here I can track my voltage. Right now I'm at 41.4 volts. It's already almost done. Turn off my display, that's how I do that. Now my scooter is not gonna work until I put this key in. Once the key's inside, then my throttle will be activated. Right here I put this beast to a test, something lightweight. Now I have a bike trailer connected to my scooter with a 55-pound 4-year-old in it. Now I'm going up this dirt hill. My tires do spin out inside of it, but nonetheless, I do make it up. And I push it all the way up to the top with the bike trailer.